What if Ash conquered both Paldea and Kitakami? With the new protagonist, we'll never see this, so let me show you how it would go. Catching all of Ash's Pokemon in their correct form, thanks Teal mask, this is gonna be brutal. And we'll smack these insanely hard rule set on there to make it even more challenging. We're introduced to the starters, but Ash hasn't been to Paldea, so he has none of them. But it's fine, because Mum gives us a Pokemon he did have, the Rotom Phone. Go, Phone! Attack Nemona! Oh, that didn't really work out too well for me, did it? Run away! After running away, we can find another one of Ash's Pokemon, being Fletchling. Gives us something actually usable that won't break, eh? Going a bit further, we're gonna run into Miraidon. Now, this thing wants our sandwich. Luckily, Ash is the king of sandwiches. Yes, a Pikachu! Oh, it's a Pichu. Well, I have an idea. Whoops, maybe we'll wait for a Pikachu, eh? Well, at least going a bit further, we can find a Buizel. Ash had a Buizel, so we can catch it. And that's as far as we can go before needing to go into our first Nemona battle. Sprigato's gonna use a scratch against us, not doing much, as our Peck does just under half. It then uses a Leafage, and as you can see, it's not doing too much damage. Thankfully, 2 more Pecks are all we need to get rid of this. Next up is a big problem, though. It's going to be Pawmi. Pawmi is going to Terrasilize into the Electric type, and let's not even entertain the fact we stood a chance. Fletchling goes down in 1, and Buizel doesn't actually have any moves yet, but it's fine because it's slower and gets taken out anyway. We then get given a Terra Orb, but that's cheating, and Ash doesn't do cheating. Oh wait, actually, yeah, he does. Right, we can use Terrasilize then. Going a bit further, we can get yet another encounter, being a Starly. Then we can get our true starter, being a Pikachu. Finally, we've got our mascot. Scarlet is very quick and is going to evolve into a Staravia. Katie has 3 Pokemon. And because of our rules, that means we can only bring 3 ourselves, one of which has to be Pikachu. Because Ash never did a battle without Pikachu. We're going to lead with Staravia, who is able to use Wing Attack, taking out the Nimble. We can then do the same against Tarantula, which will follow the same fate. Teddiursa's going to be her next Pokemon, and it's going to Terrasilize into the Bug type, unfortunately for it, allowing our Wing Attack to do a lot of damage. Its Fury Swipes won't do much to me, though. Even if it hit 5 times, we wouldn't be taken out, so this battle has been free. We're then introduced to Miss Briar and get given the Kitakami Pokedex, which is going to unlock some new Pokemon for us. First one we run into is going to be a Sewaddle. Isn't it beautiful? And then we're instantly challenged to a battle by Carmine, one of the new characters in this DLC. Puchiena gets intimidated off the bat by our Staravia, and then we're going to Wing Attack into it, finishing it off. Next up, she's got a Vulpix, but she's not as good as Brock, so we do amazing damage to it, as it just uses a Spite, lowering our PP. From there, we're obviously going to take it out. And then Poltergeist comes out, which is the new Poltergeist variant. However, it ends up being a grass type, so obviously a Wing Attack will annihilate that too. Then get given a Selfie Stick, which doesn't make sense because the Rotom Phone flies. Seeing the defeat that his sister went to, Kieran also wants to battle us. However, he has even rougher of a time. Literally, we sweep him as well. Poor little bugger. This battle did almost overlevel our Staravia though, so let us get right on back to Paldea and start by taking on Cloth. At this point, Buizel knows some moves, so we're in a good position. Cloth is going to start off by using a Vice Grip as we Water Gun into it. It's then going to Rock Smash us as we Water Gun again, but this will unfortunately activate its Anger Shell ability, meaning on the next turn, Buizel will go down. This means we're going to bring out Sewaddle, who can survive a Vice Grip beautifully and retaliate with a Razor Leaf, finishing the Cloth off. And immediately after Cloth, we get some decent shiny luck and run into a shiny one. However, Ash never had one, so we gotta take it down. This is very sad, but there's a way of counteracting it. 1 subscribe will save a crab, and it'll also up your shiny chances, so you might as well do it. We can now get a Rockruff, but unfortunately for us, Ash's is a Dusk form, meaning it needs the ability Own Tempo. Before I find one of these, I actually end up running into Riolu. Ash had one of them, so let's catch that also. Eventually, we do end up finding one though, and it can be added to our team. It was also exactly at the level cap. However, we're not going to use it for the next gym battle, as that is Brassius and his grass types. We're going to lead with Seawaddle. Seawaddle can bug bite, doing a lot of damage to Petlil, as a Mega Drain does almost nothing to us. Obviously, on the next turn, we're going to finish it off. Then out comes Smoliv, and the same thing happens, except this time it goes for Tackle, which does a bit more damage. Bye-bye, little olive boy. Last but not least, we do have the Sudowoodo. It's going to terrestrialize, gaining that weakness from the bug type, so we can bug bite into it, doing all right-ish damage, I guess. But it'll retaliate with a rock throw, which will almost wipe the floor with us. We can then bug bite again, knocking it into the yellow. However, this time it's going to Trailblaze, take us out and up its speed. Next up is going to be Staravia, whose Intimidate lowers the attack at least. And then we can Wing Attack, knocking it into the red as it hits us with a Trailblaze for nothing. From there, all we need to do is use a Quick Attack, because that'll ensure we're faster, and the Sudowoodo goes down, winning us the second gym badge. Back on Kitakami, we can run into a signpost, and we actually learn a story about an ogre.
What are you doing in my swamp?
In Kitakami, you can also find incredibly early Heracrosses. Low-leveled, you can even use them before the first gym. In the same area, we can also get ourselves an Apom, which is pretty sweet. Oh, look, there's a Snorlax. Pokeball, go! Seems we can't catch this one. Going a bit further, we can get ourselves a Noivat. And then Kieran's going to challenge us to yet another battle. We were leading with Rockruff, which is far from ideal against a Poliwag, so we're going to switch into Seawaddle, who takes a Water Gun beautifully. He's then going to use a Haze, which does nothing as we Razor Leaf, knocking it into the red. And then that turn repeats. However, this time it is the demise of the Poliwag. Next up is going to be his Yanma, so we're actually going to switch out into Staravia. Air Cutter ends up doing a decent amount of damage to us though. It then outspeeds us with Air Cutter, knocking us into the red, but a Wing Attack will take it out here. Unfortunately for us, on the next turn, Fura is going to use Quick Attack, sealing Staravia's fate. We're then going to bring out Seawaddle as Fura starts defense curling, meaning our bug bite does less damage than I wanted. Same again happens on the next turn, which is rough. And then he's going to defense curl yet again, but we switch to Razor Leaf as the high crit chance will hopefully get us some more damage. Unfortunately for us, we don't end up getting a crit at all, and Seawaddle will eventually go down. However, it did get Fura into the red. I thought this would allow Pikachu to come out and just Quick Attack and take it out, but it survives even that and then uses a Dig. We switch to Riolu because a Dig will not take it out, and then expecting another Quick Attack, I switch back into Pikachu. Unfortunately, it used Dig again, and I decide, why not just stay in, take the hit. We do just survive, and that's going to allow us to finish him off with a Quick Attack on the next turn. It was close, but we got through it. We go forward to the cave, but it ends up being empty. No ogre. Shrek, where are you? Seawaddle is then going to evolve into a Swadloon. Again, we're getting close to the level cap, so let's go back to Paldea and do another Titan fight, being Bombirdier. Unfortunately for the bird, we have our trusty Pikachu, which makes incredibly short work of the first phase, meaning it needs to go back and heal. Even though it gets a heal, we don't for the second phase. Therefore, I choose to switch out into our Rockruff, who won't take too much damage from this bugger. Not that it attacks anyway, as it tormented into Nacli, allowing Nacli to rock throw it. It's then gonna pluck into us as we rock throw it ourselves, but Nacli is gonna bring it down to earth with a smackdown. It then plucks us again, and both me and Nacli end up missing our rock throws, which sucks. Rockruff will then unfortunately go down to another pluck, but it gets knocked into the red by the Nacli. This allows our Pikachu to come out, Quick Attack, and finish it off. After this, we can get yet another Pokemon that we love, being Gibble, the chompy little boy. Fletchling is then going to evolve itself, and being jealous, Swadloon is also going to do the same, making it to its final evolution. Now, it won't go to nighttime unless you beat this thing, so let's progress a bit further in Kitakami, preparing for the Festival of Masks. This unfortunately will mean another battle against Carmine though. This time she's got herself a Morpeko to start with, so obviously we're gonna switch straight into Leavanny. Oh, it leered us, so scary. You know what's scarier? An X-Scissor right to the face, taking you out. My Tiana will then come out and it gets an Intimidate, which sucks, as now our X-Scissor won't end up taking it out, allowing it to Fire Fang and wipe us off the face of the earth. It's fine though. In the back, we got Fletchinder, who can use a Flame Charge, finishing my Tiana off and getting itself a speed boost. Ulchigeist is then going to come out, and the grass typing is unfortunate, as our Flame Charge does a lot of damage, as its Astonish does nothing. We then outspeed, and we are obviously going to take it out. She does have one more Pokemon. Unfortunately for her, though, it ends up being a Swadloon. 4 times weak to fire means that we will be saying bye-bye to this little bugger. We then get the Teal mask to drop for us, which means we've now beaten the DLC, right? And progressing a bit further, Riolu is going to finally evolve into a Lucario. And that's going to lead us onto the first Team Star battle, being against Giacomo and his Dark types. As you would expect, we're going to lead with Lucario, which makes a very short work of the Pawniard with an Aura Sphere. Reverum comes out and gets an Intimidate, but it doesn't matter. Inner Focus will block it. It's then going to Wicked Talk into us, but it doesn't do too much damage, and our Aura Sphere does a decent chunk. The turn then repeats itself, and that is going to knock it into range of being knocked out on the next turn, where it just gives up completely, uses a Metal Sound. Too little too late though, so now you go down. The battles aren't going to stop there though, as we've got a Nemona fight now. Livani is going to Razor Leaf and wipe the Rockruff off the face of the planet. Ormi comes out, but it actually gets hit with a critical hit on the X-Scissor, and obviously it can't withstand that. Lastly is her Florigato, which is going to Terrastallize and does actually manage to survive an X-Scissor, but wastes the turn by going for a Hone Claws. This means that Nemona is going to be no more. During the Iono trial, we get this really weird glitch with the camera. Like, I don't know what went on here. It's just constantly out of focus. Luckily for us, though, it didn't stop that way for the Iono battle itself. We're going to lead Pikachu and Thunderbolt the Wattrel as it hits us for nothing with a Pluck. This means a Thunderbolt on the next turn will finish it off, and it will bait out her Luxio. We're then going to switch into Livani, who doesn't take too much damage from the bite. X-Scissor does a lot of damage to it, and as you can see, it's not doing much to us, meaning on the next turn, we'll finish it off. Bellybolt comes out next, and an X-Scissor does about a third to it, but it sparks us and does decent damage too. Knowing I'm not in the best position, we're gonna switch into Lucario, but it gets hit with a Spark and paralyzed. And to make matters worse, we've just gotta take hits as we get stuck in full paralysis on the next turn. We do end up getting an Aura Sphere off, knocking it into the red, but it's not enough, and then we are gonna go down the turn after. This makes it free for us to switch into Livani, who will Terrastallize an X-Scissor, taking the Bellybolt down. This is going to lead us into her final Pokemon, being Miss Magius. It ends up Terrastallizing into the Electric type, and then using a Confuse Ray against us. But it's fine, because we can one... Oh, we hit ourselves in confusion. Yeah, and we've been a bit unlucky here. Well, with that, we're not faster, so I decide we're just going to switch into Staravia, expecting a Hex. Staravia can get at least a bit of damage off by going for a quick attack, but unfortunately, a Charge Beam is going to wipe the floor with it. Next up is Pikachu, whose quick attack also doesn't do too much, and a Hex will almost take it out. And unfortunately, Pikachu will also be going down to Miss Magius. And that's it. We all know Livani was slower. That means it can just use one last Hex, and we've lost. I do feel we got quite unlucky, though, so I'm not too happy. If she wants to play like that, though, I'm gonna bring the cheese. We get through Wattrel and Luxio in the exact same fashion as before. This time we did Terrastallize a bit early though. When Bellybolt comes in, we'll start by using an X-Scissor as it hits me with a Spark for pretty big damage and paralyzes me. Knowing we can't stay in, we'll switch into Gibble, who won't be affected by the Spark. This Water Gun doesn't do too much to us. Gibble can use a Dig, Obviously, it ends up hitting the next turn as it manages to hold on, so we do take some extra damage, but either way, the next turn we will be taking Belly Bolt down. This is where the cheese comes in. Against Miss Magius, if you have a normal and a ground type, she literally can't hit you, so you just switch between the two until she runs out of PP. Then once she's out of PP, you just start an all-out assault and finish her off because obviously she can't touch you. Gibble then tries to evolve, but as cool as it was, Ash never had a Garchomp, so we're not allowing it. We've then got an Orthworm battle, but we have a Lucario, so are you really surprised that we wiped the floor with it? Going back into Kitakami, we are gonna have a Snorlax encounter though. It's level 55, which is incredibly scary, but I decide to chance a Quick Ball, and it ends up paying off. So we've got the Snorlax, however, it's a long time before we can use it. That's going to lead us into another battle against Kieran. It leads Yanmar, so off the bat, we're going to switch into Staravia, who does get hit pretty decently with an Air Cutter. It's fine though, because it survives the next one, and a wing attack critting is more than enough to get rid of the Yanmar. Turns out his Poliwag's evolved into a Poliwhirl though, so let us switch out again, this time into Leavanny. Takes the takedown beautifully, might I add, and then retaliates with a Razor Leaf, almost finishing it off, but Poliwhirl wastes the turn going for a Haze. This means we can use our scissors to chop it up on the next turn and bring out Furret. X-Scissor does about half damage as it's going to take down and do some pretty heavy damage to us. Then it just decides to Baby Doll Eyes, so we will be taking it out this turn. After this, he sends out his Dipplin. Now, I decide we're just going to switch into Lucario here. Dragon's Breath doesn't do much, but it does end up paralyzing us. Then Dipplin uses Syrup Bomb, covering us in stickiness as we Aura Sphere, and then our speed falls because of the stickiness, but it's fine because he really can't do too much damage, allowing us to Aura Sphere again. And then, as a way of getting priority, we use Vacuum Wave to finish the job, taking no more damage. I then decide to create a little ham sandwich, because this is going to allow the Noctowl Hunt to go off. Well, it would if the game let us go to nighttime. Yeah, turns out the time is locked in the DLC till you beat it. Wonderful. Guess we'll have to do our shiny hunt a bit later on in the video. From here, Rockruff can evolve and become the Dusk form that is Lycanroc. And it will lead us into the next gym battle, being against Kofu and his water types. I equipped the Silver Powder to Leavanny, upping the Bug-type moves, allowing us to one-shot the Veluza with an X-Scissor. Trio will then come out, it'll get Headbutt off, but it doesn't do too much damage, allowing us to Razor Leaf and take it down. Last up is going to be Crabominable, which is going to Terrasilize into the Water type. Not great for it, as it now has a weakness to our Razor Leaf. On top of that, it can't hit a Slam, allowing us to get another hit off for free, but as you can see on the next turn, the Slam really didn't do much. And this is going to mean that Leavanny has soloed Kofu. How beautiful. We then find a Donphan, but Ash got his as a Phanpy, so we need to do that. It's the same reason that Crocodile is getting locked out for this run, because you can only get Sandile in this game. Luckily, it doesn't take us too long to find a Phanpy though, and we can very quickly evolve it into a Donphan itself. And that there is going to lead us into another Team Star battle, being against Atticus. We're going to lead with Heracross, who's going to get Toxicked by the Skuntank, but it's fine because we equipped a Berry to cure it, allowing us to Horn Attack, doing decent damage. It then Toxicks us again, but it's fine because staying poisoned this time will mean the Guts will be good to go off, making our Horn Attack do more damage. It's then going to Venoshock into us, doing decent damage, but it will go down on this turn. Muck is next up, and we do big damage with a Horn Attack, but a Sludge Wave will do awesome damage to us as well. Poison damage does almost take us out as well. We'll Horn Attack again, knocking it low, but we will go down here. This will bring us into Donphan, who we equip the Soft Sand to raise its attack. And an Earthquake is obviously going to be more than enough to finish off this Muck. Reverum is next, but it's not the big one, so it uses an Iron Head, doing okay damage, but a 4 times effective Earthquake wipes the floor with it. Then we have the big Reverum. What we're going to do off the bat is switch into Staravia to get an Intimidate, lowering its attack, and its Spin Out isn't going to do too much. Also lowers its speed, which really helps us out. Knowing a poison move's coming, we can switch into Donphan, who will tank it beautifully. And then we'll switch right back out into Staravia, getting yet another attack drop. We're going to bring in Donphan yet again. However, this time it's going to stay in. Actually, because it got poisoned on the Noxious Talk on the switch in though. Earthquake does big damage, but the flame charge it uses does next to nothing. Now that it's faster though, it uses a spin out against us, but our Earthquake knocks it into the red. And unfortunately, the poison damage ends up taking us out here. But it's fine. We can bring in our ace that is Pikachu, use one Thundershock, and we have defeated Atticus. We made a mistake though. We actually skipped past Mela, meaning that we're going to have to go back, and any Pokemon that overleveled past her, we can't use for that battle, so we lose our ground and rock type straight away. This means we'll need a few more encounters, so let's start off by getting a Goomy. Then gonna go ahead and grab a Pink Urchin. Now, you might be saying, Morty, Ash didn't have a Pink Urchin, but he wasn't against trading. We know he did that, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna trade this Pink Urchin for a Haunter. Now, you might be saying again, Ash never had a Haunter. Yes, but this Haunter, the moment we get it, evolves into a Gengar, meaning technically we never had it as a Haunter. This will mean we only ever had a Gengar. Still gotta bring Pikachu to this battle though, which is rough because we can't use it, meaning that it's just a dead body. Well, let's see if we can manage to beat Mela then. The idea of leading with Goomy was to set up a rain dance with a Damp Rock. However, the rain was already on, so we don't need to do that. This allows us to Dragon Breath doing decent damage, and they're gonna clear Smog us and crit doing quite a bit. I go for another Dragon's Breath, and thankfully we are going to get the paralysis here as Clear Smog doesn't do much to us. Turns repeat yet again, however, this time Goomy is low. So what we're going to do on the next turn is switch into a Gibble. Gibble can use a Dig, which is obviously going to do a lot of damage and take down the Torkoal. Then the Reveroom's going to come out though. It's going to use Screech against us, but we're opting to go for Dig. This will mean it will miss its Swift, and we will do about a fifth to it on the next turn. It's going for Swift and with Screech, so I don't want to stay in, so we're going to switch into Gengar as Swift does not affect it. Blazing Torque comes into us as our Sludge Bomb does a lot of damage. It then screeches Gengar as well, but Sludge Bomb will knock it into the red. From here, we're going to switch out and we're going to bring in Buizel. Blazing Torque isn't going to do much to it at all. It then opts to go for a Screech, and that allows us to use a Water Gun, and we have beaten Mela of Team Star. Staravia is now finally ready to evolve into the awesome Staraptor. Well, the other bird got jealous as well, so I suppose we're getting a Talonflame also. All of that is going to lead us onto the 5th gym battle, though, being against Larry and his normal types. We're going to lead with Staraptor, who's instantly going to use a close combat, wiping the floor with Kamala. Then, against the Dunsparce, we're actually going to switch into Gengar. And Gengar doesn't have a weakness because it can't be hit with normal moves, and we equipped an air balloon to make sure ground moves can't hit it. We Sludge Bomb doing about half damage to it, but it can glare and end up paralyzing us. Not that it matters though, because we'll take it down on the next turn. Lastly is Staraptor, and Staraptor is obviously going to be able to hit us with an Aerial Ace, but I don't expect to go down here, so I'll allow it. Sludge Bomb also almost wipes it out, which is amazing. However, what we're going to do is we're going to keep Gengar alive by switching into Staraptor, getting an Intimidate off. His Staraptor is faster, but it cannot take us out thanks to that Intimidate, allowing us to use a close combat and finish his off. What a poetic way to beat him with his own Pokemon. However, because we could only have 3 Pokemon for that, guess what? We can only have 3 for the incoming Nemona battle. Staraptor lead isn't great as Accelerock is going to do big damage to us. However, our close combat will take the Lycanroc down. Next up is Pormo, and I don't really want to stay in against this, so I'm going to switch out and we're going to bring in Pikachu. Good call because it used a Thunder Wave. I then forget about Volt Absorb and go for a Thunderbolt, allowing it to get a Spark off for free. Quick Attack doesn't do too much to it, and now it's switched to Arm Thrust, thankfully only hitting twice. Another Quick Attack will do decent damage to it, but obviously not take it out. I decide the best protocol is just to do one more, knock it to half health, and let Pikachu go down here, allowing Gengar to come out. At this health, a Sludge Bomb from Gengar will finish it off. And next up is Goomy, but Goomy's pretty weak, so Sludge Bomb will one-shot that. Lastly is her Meowscarada, which is quite a scary Pokemon in general, but at least we've got a poison type move. It goes for a flower trick, which does manage to do some awesome damage to us, but Curse Body disables it, and our Sludge Bomb one-shots it anyway. Somehow we won this. I really wasn't expecting to. While we're around here, we might as well find the Primapes around. Ash had a Primeape, so we can catch that. And on our way up the hill, we might as well get a hold of a Snorunt. Goomy is also now ready to evolve, which is pretty cool. And we're gonna end up going back to Kitakami, back into the DLC, to take on the Alpha Milotic. We make pretty quick work of it, though, as a Brave Bird one-shots the bugger. Kieran, he just ran off with the mask. Dude, you make me think he'd gone to join Arceus in the afterlife or something. Kieran is then refusing to give the mask unless we end up battling him. However, unfortunately for him, Staraptor is, how you say, a beast. So we make very short work of him. He then punches this pedestal, and I'll tell you what, he must have a delayed power in him, as once he runs off, it ends up nuking the place, which releases the Loyal 3, and they promptly run away from us. We do have to say Ogerpom here by battling a monkey. Again, though, we make really short work of it, and then they run off, so now we're tasked with getting the masks back. We'll start off with the Titanic Okie Doggy battle, my favorite of the new legendaries. We lead with Staraptor, who's going to use an Aerial Ace off the bat, doing decent damage to it. It then Poison Fangs into us, not doing much, but it will end up getting the poison. Amine wasn't happy about that, though, as her Morpeko is going to Thundershock into it and get the paralysis. From here, we're going to Terrasilize to get the flying type, and we're going to Brave Bird into it, doing awesome damage. Morpeko doesn't do much to it, but it does get full parried here. And then Ogerpon actually ends up giving us an attack boost. This means Aerial Ace does some decent damage, but still Thundershock isn't doing much, and he attacks pretty heavily into Morpeko and poisons that. Not wanting to go down, I'm going to switch into Pikachu. Morpeko does a bit of damage, but we get Poison Fanged and unfortunately poisoned. This thing has 100% poison rate. Our Thunderbolt does some decent-ish damage, as Thundershock does nothing, but it does get full parried again. The next turn, we will end up tag teaming it to knock it to a Slither. However, Morpeko does go down, bringing in Mightyena. This is it, though. This is the last of the battle we need to do. We Thunderbolt one last time, taking it down. Next one we're going to have to take down is Munkidori, and we've brought Donphan to the battle for this one. Munkidori clear smogs into Morpeko. Morpeko will bite it, doing very little damage, and then we'll Earthquake, taking Morpeko out and knocking Munkidori to half health. Mightyena then comes out, and again, it's going to get hit by a Clear Smog as we Earthquake, taking down another one of Carmine's team members. Poltergeist, we don't get to take out, though, as Munkidori is going to Psybeam, taking it out. However, one Earthquake is all we need to finish the battle from here. And last, but most certainly least, because I don't like Fezandipity at all, let's do the Fezandipity battle. It ends up wing attacking into our Gengar as we Sludge Bomb it, doing, okay damage, and Morpeko bites, doing next to nothing. It's then going to Dazzling Gleam, and this will take out Morpeko, but it allows us to Sludge Bomb, knocking it to about a quarter health. Mightyena comes out next, and he will end up using a Dazzling Gleam again, almost taking Mightyena out. However, this time our Curse Body activates, stopping it from using it, and we're going to team up, knocking it into the yellow. Unfortunately, though, the poison damage will take Mightyena out here. Poltergeist then comes out and heals us with its hospitality. However, it doesn't really matter. We'll get Wing Attack for nothing, Sludge Bomb into it, and then Poltergeist is going to use a Stun Spore. From here, we Sludge Bomb, knocking it low. Again, don't take much damage from a Wing Attack, and activating our Citrus Berry, which is why the heal didn't matter, as Poltergeist uses an Astonish. One more Sludge Bomb knocks it to a Sliver, but Poltergeist kinda sucks and still doesn't manage to take it out here. This means the next turn is up to us, and we have officially beaten all of the Loyal 3 and gotten all the masks back. Kieran is then gonna challenge us to yet another battle. However, this time we're leading with Leavanny, who will wipe the floor with his Shiftry with a 4 times effective Egg Scissor. And Mega comes out next, so we're just going to switch into Lycanroc straight away. However, its Air Cutter actually does more damage than I was expecting. But our Rock Throw will take it out on the next turn, leading him to switch into his Poliwrath. So obviously we're going to switch out and we're going to bring in Leavanny. Liquidation does nothing to it, but does lower our defense, which sucks. We can then Razor Leaf, but it wastes the turn by going for a Belly Drum, and since we're faster, it will go down on the next turn because of that. One of my personal favorite Pokemon comes out next, being Gliscor, but unfortunately, I can't stay in against it, so we're going to switch into Sliggoo. The Aerial Ace hits pretty heavily, but it's fine because it just hardens on the next turn, and we can Ice Beam, doing awesome damage and taking it out. Next up is his Dipplin, but it's slower than us, and we've got Ice Beam, so I think you know what happens there. And then we've got his Probopass. Obviously, we're going to switch into Lucario, who won't take much damage from the Rock Tomb. And even with the speed drop, we're faster, can Aura Sphere, which does decent damage, as their Spark does nothing to us. And now we'll Vacuum Wave, finishing Probopass and Kieran off. He's having a little bit of a whine, but we're incredibly close to the level cap, and I don't want to take Ogerpon on when being this close, as I don't think we'll be able to take on Rhyme if we do this. So let's go back to Paldea for now. Obviously, the first thing we're going to do is get that level cap raised by taking on Rhyme. She's going to start out by slashing into Donphan, as we use a bite into Banette, almost taking it out. But Banette then uses an Icy Wind, lowering our speed. Donphan is locked into Rollout against Mimikyu, breaking its disguise. And we get a stat boost from the crowd. Mimikyu will slash into Donphan again, and Banette will Icy Wind yet again, doing big damage as we bite, taking it out. Our rollout doesn't do quite as much as we would have liked into the Mimikyu though. We do get another boost from the crowd, but it's too little too late. Mimikyu Shadow Sneaks into Lycanroc, and then the Houndstone goes for Phantom Force, which makes it disappear, and we miss our bite because of that. However, our rollout connects and finishes Mimikyu off. Next turn, she's got her Toxtricity, which is going to Terrasilize, but we're nothing but sitting ducks, and both our Pokemon are going to go down this turn. And because she Terrasilize, she actually gets a load of boosts. We're going to Terrasilize ourselves, though, by using Pikachu, and Brave Bird into the Toxtricity with Talonflame. Hyper Voice almost wipes us out, and Houndstone is going to vanish, but our Thunderbolt was directed towards the Toxtricity, so it doesn't matter. On the plus sides, we get the boosts that she got as well. However, we're a lot lower health. Doubling into Toxtricity will at least take it down here, though, meaning it doesn't get an attack off. However, the Phantom Force comes in and finishes Pikachu off. I switch into Leavanny, as it's the best choice, I believe, but Rhyme gets another boost, which really sucks. We Brave Bird into Houndstone, not doing too much, and then Razor Leaf, knocking it under half as it Phantom Forces. She then gets her speed raised, making her faster yet again. Talonflame will be taken out by the Phantom Force here, and then Leavanny will have to Razor Leaf, but it doesn't do too much. Lastly, we have our Lucario, but unfortunately, it only knows fighting moves. Fighting can't hit Ghost, so this kind of sucks. Its Phantom Force was aimed into Leavanny, and we can get a Razor Leaf off and knocking it into the red. And then the next turn, thankfully, it just ends up going for Lucario, so we will finish it off here. However, a crit into Leavanny would have ended this battle there, so it was incredibly lucky. Iron Treads is up next though, and this is going to be a bit of an easier battle. It uses Rapid Spin against us, doing nothing as we Aura Sphere, almost taking it out. And we can get priority with Vacuum Wave, and it's taken down. Beautiful. This will then lead us on to the next battle of being against Tulip and her Psychic types. We're going to start off with Staraptor, who Terrastalizes into the Flying type, and Brave Birds into for Rigarath, taking it out. Gardevoir is just as frail, so we're going to do this same thing against it. However, the recoil is starting to stack up. For a Spathra, we're going to switch out into Leavanny because we know it's not going to take too much damage from the Psychic. Leavanny then outspeeds with an X-Scissor and one-shots a Spathra. Lastly, we have Florges, which is going to Terrasilize into the Psychic typing, making it weak to our X-Scissor and being... Oh, it manages to survive. Well, Leavanny goes down here, but it's fine because Ash always wins with his Ace Pikachu in the end, right? Back in Kitakami though, Ogerpon wants us to prove our worth to catch it. And unfortunately for it, even though it's got 4 different forms with its masks, we end up one-shotting every single form. This makes it so we easily beat it. And then we end up catching it, but obviously we can't use it. Which puts us at a slight disadvantage for the Carmine battle because she wants Ogerpon to be on our team for it, but obviously we're not using it. She leads Mighty Enna and we lead Talonflame, but we're instantly going to switch out into Leavanny. It just uses Howl, so it's fine. And on the next turn, we're going to use an X-Scissor and take it out. Ninetales is up next, though, and I don't want to stay in against it, so we're going to bring in Lycanroc. But it Will-O-Wisp, which kind of sucks because we're burnt, and that's halves our attack now. Meaning Rock Throw would have taken out, but unfortunately only knocks it to the yellow. However, it doesn't do much damage to us either. Then on the next turn, we get a nice little low roll, so it survives on a Slither. But it's fine. Just ends up using Spite. This means we can bite on the next turn and not risking a miss and take it out. From here, Morpeko's going to come in, so we'll switch in Leavanny, who gets tormented on the switch in. X-Scissor will wipe the floor with Morpeko, though. She sends out her own Leavanny next, but we just need to Bug Bite. It's super effective and finishes it off, leading us to her last Pokemon, Sinistcha, who gets X-Scissored, knocking it to about half as it foul plays us. However, too little too late. 1 Bug Bite, and we have won this battle. And with that, we have officially beaten the Teal Mask DLC. On top of that, we've also set Kieran onto his villain arc. That's not exactly a great thing. However, we've got one last thing to do in Kitakami, so we're waiting around for nightfall. We get our sandwiches prepared and we search around at night and we are hunting for this shiny Noctowl. We find plenty of normal ones, but no shinies. And after about 3 hours, we run into a shiny Heracross. Ash's Heracross isn't shiny, so we have to say goodbye to it. I see the yellow, but it's a Hoot Hoot. Ash never had a shiny Hoot Hoot. Oh no. Now, we could catch this, evolve it, and technically we've got our Noctowl, but I don't think it's fit into the rules, and I think you guys want to see me suffer a bit to get the Noctowl. So let's go even further.
One eternity later.
And to be honest, it doesn't take us too much longer before we find the beauty that is the shiny Noctowl. I've put almost a day into finding this bugger. Thank God we got it. Shiny Noctowl's big, but there is one more thing that we need to do in Kitakami, and that is go for a picnic with Jack, where he gives us an egg. This egg will hatch into a Turtwig. I'll be honest, I'd have preferred the Chimchar because we're now locked out from the other Sinnoh starter, but I'll take the Turtwig. Zash did indeed have one. With Kitakami done, though, we might as well end up finishing the game. Firstly, by taking on the 8th gym leader. We're going to lead Talonflame, who can instantly flame charge one-shotting the Frostmoth. So Titan comes out next, and we Brave Bird doing decent damage as its liquidation knocks us into the red. With all the friendship we gained with them as well, it starts doing like the little friendship things, which is kind of cool. From here, though, we're going to switch into Lucario, who doesn't take too much from a liquidation and can then use an Aura Sphere, knocking it to a Slither. But it also gets knocked to the yellow here. However, we had a Citrus Berry to get somewhat healthy. We then Vacuum Wave, because it might as well, it'll finish it off regardless. This will lead us into Beartic, and we're going to Terrastallize in order to lose the Steel type in and get a bit of extra damage on our Aura Sphere. And without the Steel typing, we do just survive, allowing us to use a Vacuum Wave and finish a Beartic off. Lastly is Altaria, and after clutching it out, I decide I want you to live. So we bring out Lycanroc, the reliable partner, and Altaria uses Hurricane, doing decent damage. We outspeed with a Rock Throw, which manages to get a crit thanks to the friendship. But we get Ice Beamed, and that is going to do nothing. However, when we miss our Rock Throw on the next turn, the Ice Beam coming in is going to take us out, which really sucks. We lost a Pokemon, but we can bring in Lucario and at least finish this battle off, getting us the final gym badge. Turtwig is then going to evolve into a Grottle, and Grottle is going to reach its max capacity by becoming a Torterra. This is going to end up leading us into the Ortega battle, and he has his fairy types to try and save him. Fortunately for Ortega, Gengar happens to know Sludge Bomb is a poison type, So we make very short work of him. Like, literally, this was no worries whatsoever. Noibat is finally ready to join the evolved ranks by becoming a Noivern. It just so happens to be one of the best counters for Eri's team as well. Acrobatics wipes the floor with the Toxicrow. It then Annihilate survived. Never mind, we get Ice Punch and Noivern goes down in its first battle. Beautiful. Talonflame can come out now though. It can use a Flame Charge to get a speed boost while still guaranteeing the KO. The Simian will get Brave Birded, which does decent damage, and then Rock Tomb will be avoided thanks to Friendship. I then misplay and go for a Flame Charge, which doesn't take it out, and its Rock Tomb connects this turn. However, we tough it out with Friendship. Obviously, one more Flame Charge is gonna finish it off here though. We're then gonna Flame Charge into Lucario, knocking it for about half as it ends up taking us out finally. Then we can switch into Gengar. Gengar can Shadow Ball, finishing off the Lucario. And last but not least is her Starmobile, but we know Psychic, which does over half health, and she really can't do much to us. Even the high horsepower won't take us out, allowing us to get one more off and taking her down. And we might as well get right on into the next battle, being against Dondozo. We're going to start off with Torterra, who's going to use a Leaf Storm and get hit with an Aqua Tail, but it doesn't do too much as Greedent Tail Whips. We can then Razor Leaf, knocking it low as we get Water Pulse, knocking us into half, but we had a Citrus Berry to heal some more. And Greedent wastes the turn again. Obviously, this turn we will end up taking it down though. However, it's not over as we have to face the Tatsugiri as well. We start off by getting hit with a Muddy Water and then use a Leaf Storm, but it does nowhere near as much as what it did to Dondozo. Greedent actually does more damage with its takedown. From here, we're going to switch into Lucario as Tatsugiri taunts into the Greedent, stopping it from tail whipping. We can then Aura Sphere as Tatsugiri uses an Icy Wind to drop our speed, and Greedent gets a very heavy hit with a takedown. Greedent will unfortunately go down to a Dragon Pulse here though, and we can use an Aura Sphere, knocking it to a quarter. It uses another Icy Wind against us, and we're just going to Aura Sphere again. It then uses a Taunt, but I was expecting it to hit into us, so I went for Reversal, which does less than Aura Sphere would have. After this, it will Muddy Water, and Lucario will go down here. But it's too little too late. We can now bring in Gengar, use one Sludge Bomb, and Tatsugiri goes down. After this, we can then end up getting another encounter, being Hawlucha. Why stop there though? Let us get a Dragonite while we're in the area as well. Then let us catch the final Pokemon we need to catch, being a Torkoal. I also figure while we're at it, why not take on Director Clavel? We can lead with Talonflame, who can use a Flame Charge into him, doing okay damage as it uses a Yawn. We can then Brave Bird, knocking it to a third as it sets up a Reflect, which really sucks. It's fine though, as we end up having a Chesto Berry. From there, I'm going to Flame Charge as I don't want to take it down because that Reflect is quite pesky, but it yawns. After this, we're going to switch into Lucario, who gets hit with a Foul Play, and Oranguru will just survive the incoming Aura Sphere, allowing it to use Yawn. We can then switch into Pikachu, which gets hit pretty heavily, but then we can end up taking it out with a Thunderbolt. Knowing it sees a KO, I decide to switch into Talonflame on the Wood Hammer, which does nothing. It also activates my Flame Body, meaning that it gets burned. I can then Flame Charge into it, but it is going to be able to set up an Aurora Veil here. This means next turn it will manage to survive, and it can retaliate with a Blizzard, almost taking us out. We then switch into Lucario as it was going for Ice Shard to try and take us out, but honestly, it's fine. As the burn damage just ticks up and Abomasnow will go down here. Houndoom is his next Pokemon, and I just quickly use a Vacuum Wave into it because it's faster than me, but a Fire Blast will take me out here. Dragonite's up next, and it can use a Dragon Claw, but does get hit pretty heavily with a Dark Pulse. And it ends up taking us one more Dragon Claw to take the Houndoom down. After this, we've got Poltegeist, which we Dragon Claw, activating the weak armor of, but it allows it to Shadow Ball and finish us off. From there, we bring in Noivern, but because we activated the weak armor, it ends up being faster Will-O-Wisps, so we're not doing as much damage with our acrobatics as I would like. Still enough to take the Poltegeist out, though. Unfortunately for me, though, not enough to take the Amoonguss out, which is going to use a Hex against us. Luckily, I end up winning the battle and take it out before it takes me out, but we still have quick Quavel to worry about. He obviously terrestrializes it into the water typing, and we're still faster, so we can hit it with an acrobatics for okay damage. But the incoming Ice Spinner is going to wipe the floor with us. From here, we're going to bring in Torterra, and we're actually going to terrestrialize ourselves, and that's going to mean the Ice Spinner coming in can't take us out because we're only grass now. And it allows our Leaf Storm to finish it off. He had me a bit scared for a second there, but we got through it. While we're at it, we might as well take on Arven. We're leading with Dragonite because I want to show it off a bit. And we go for a Dragon's Dance, but instantly we regret this because Body Slam hits and paralyzes us. We can get another off because we're faster. Body Slam knocks us low, but it's fine because we have a Citrus Berry to heal. I'm then going to use Dragon Claw, which doesn't quite take it out, allowing it to knock us low again. But luckily for us, we'll take it down on the next turn. Garganacle's then going to come out, and obviously we're not going to take it out, but it ends up using a Stealth Rock, which is weird. Not that it matters, though, as we get a low roll on the next turn, and that is going to mean it can hit us with a Stone Edge and finish us off. Lucario's going to be up next, because obviously it can just Vacuum Wave and take the Garganacle out. Against Scovillain, I don't want to stay in, so we're going to switch into Talonflame, who gets hit heavily with the rocks, activating its Citrus. But luckily, the Fire Blast ends up missing. It can then Brave Bird, which is going to wipe the floor with Scovillain, and this brings out Cloyster. We're going to Brave Bird into the Cloyster, but it's pretty defensively tanky, and a Liquidation will finish Talonflame off. Luckily, it used its Dying Breath to burn the Cloyster with Flame Body. We can then bring in Pikachu, and obviously Pikachu is going to use a Thunderbolt and finish Cloyster off. Toedscruel's up next, and knowing it's going to go for a ground move, we're going to switch into Noivern, who won't be affected by it. Noivern can then Acrobatics, but because we have an item, it doesn't do enough. And then it ends up sporing and knocking us to sleep. It then Sludge Bombs, but obviously we're going to be staying asleep. Sludge Bombs again, and we do stay asleep. This time it knocked us low enough where our Citrus Berry activates. Luckily, we only get hit one more time before we wake up and can hit it with an Acrobatics, finishing it off. This leads us to his last Pokemon in Mabosstiff. We outspeed and use Acrobatics, but it doesn't do much, and it misses a player up. This is going to allow us to knock it to half health as it ends up taking us out because it can next turn. It's fine though, because we had Lucario in the back, and Lucario can just Aura Sphere. It's super effective, so we'll finish Mabosstiff off. We can now finally evolve our Snorunt into a Glalie, and we have one last evolution before we can complete the Ashdex. But the sky just seems to be bone dry. Wait around for around 10 minutes, and then the heavens open. It starts raining, so we can get our last Pokemon being Goodra. And with that, I would say we're ready to start taking on the Elite Four. First of which is going to be Rika and his ground types. We lead with Torterra, who gets hit pretty heavily with a Blizzard and heals a bit with a Citrus Berry. By retaliating with a Razor Leaf, we'll take Whiscash down though. Next up is going to be Camerupt, and I don't want to stay in against it, so we're going to switch into Goodra. Guess Yawned though. I didn't expect it to go for Yawn. I decide to Ice Beam with Goodra and end up getting a crit as Earth Power does next to nothing to us. Since it's going for Earth Power, I'm going to switch into Noivern, who won't be affected by it, and then I misclick and go for Tackle, allowing it to use Yawn. Well, I suppose we'll switch out and we'll switch into Glalie, eh? Oh, it was going for Fire Blast, so Glalie goes down. Wonderful. This time, Noivern comes out and we use the correct move in Acrobatics, and Camerupt goes down. Then we're going to have Donphan, and expecting it to use a Stone Edge, we're going to Terrestrialize, losing our Flying type. Our Acrobatics does decent damage, and it does exactly that. From there, it only takes us 2 more Acrobatics to take it down, but it has knocked us pretty low. However, Dugtrio is incredibly frail, so we can stay in against it and also take that out. Knowing an Earthquake's going to be coming in, we switch into Talonflame, who it won't affect. And then Clodsire bides its time. It protects, making us not be able to attack. Then we Brave Bird into it, but a Liquidation does awesome damage to us. From here, I decide I don't really want to stay in, so we're going to switch into Goodra. And Goodra doesn't get hit too heavy because Protect can't damage it. It will stay asleep while it gets Earthquaked though, which kind of sucks. And next turn, it actually ends up waking up, allowing it to use an Ice Beam, knocking Clodsire into the red, but unfortunately the Earthquake will take us out here. I decide we might as well let Talonflame finish the job off, come back in, use a Brave Bird, and take it down. With that done, we're going to get led into Poppy and her Steel types. we're going to lead off by using an Aura Sphere, almost taking Copperaja out, but allowing it to set up a Stealth Rock. It will then go down on the very next turn, bringing in Bronzong. Bronzong's pretty scary, so we're going to switch into Gengar, who actually ends up getting very heavily damaged with an Earthquake. But we outspeed, which is fine, so we can Shadow Ball and finish it off. Don't really have a good switch in for Corvisquire, so I Shadow Ball doing about half health and let it Brave Bird taking me out. We're then going to bring in Howlucha for the first time in this run, and we're going to use a Flying Press, which doesn't do too much damage, and it lets it set up an Iron defense. From here, we'll High Jump Kick, knocking it into the red as the Iron heads, knocking us for about half. But luckily at this point, one more Flying Press is enough to deal with it. We can then go for another High Jump Kick, which doesn't quite take down the Magnezone, and we will be taken out with a Discharge. This will let Lucario come in though and use a Vacuum Wave to finish Magnezone off. And lastly is Tinkaton, but once it terastallizes into a pure Steel type, an Aura Sphere will do half damage. She can only retaliate with Brick Break, which doesn't do enough, so we will take her down on the next turn. And that done is going to lead us into the Larry fight. His first Pokemon is Tropius, but we've led Glalie, who can Ice Beam and wipe the floor with it. Next up is Staraptor, and knowing that this thing is going to be going for a close combat, we switch into Gengar. Gengar is then able to use a Sludge Bomb, but it's not quite enough, and the Brave Bird coming in will take us out. However, the recoil will also finish the Staraptor off. Might as well bring Glalie in again, who will get Teeter Danced by the Oricorio coming in, but will hit through and manage to Ice Beam it, knocking it to the red. Owing to risk confusion, I'm going to switch into Pikachu on the Revelation Dance, but it gets avoided. Not that it would have done much being an electric move though. And then we can Thunderbolt, finishing Oricorio off. Altaria then comes out, and it's going to use a Dragon Pulse as we switch into Glalie. But the following turn, we're going to Ice Beam, and that will be the end of it. Then, lastly, we have his Flamigo, which does actually manage to outspeed us and use a close combat, taking us out. However, we've still got Pikachu in the back. It will outspeed, and one Thunderbolt is all we need to wipe the floor with Flamigo. All of that done, we are led on to the last member of the Elite Four, being Hassel. We got Dragonite, though. Dragonite can terastallize into the Flying type, losing its Dragon typing, and then it gets hit with a Dragon Pulse for nothing. This allows it to set up a Dragon's Dance, which is ideal, and Noivern just can't out-damage us. We only need to set up 4 Dragon's Dances. Well, to be honest, we could have got away with 3, but it missed a Super Fang, so I made us do 4 just to be safe. And from there, we've got a Dragon Claw, a super effective move against every Dragon-type Pokemon, so obviously we will finish every single one of them off with ease. That will lead us into another battle, though, being against Champion Geeta. I'm going to start off with Gengar, because Gengar can Shadow Ball into the Espathra, one-shotting it off the bat. Avalugg is then going to come out, and I use a Shadow Ball against it, as I do expect it to go down, but unfortunately it's just not quite enough, and it will end up Earthquaking to finish us off. Luckily for us, we can bring in Lucario, and obviously Lucario can one-shot it from here. Next up is going to be Go-Go, though, so we're actually going to switch into Glalie as it uses a Bulk Up. We're then going to Ice Beam, doing respectable damage, but it wastes the turn by going for Bulk Up again, meaning it will get to do nothing before we take it down next turn. King Gambit is up next, and knowing it's going to be going for a Stone Edge, we can switch into Lucario insanely safely. Well, it went for Iron Head, but same thing. All we need to do is Aura Sphere and King Gambit's gone. An issue arises now, though. The Rain starts in the background, which activates Rain in battle, meaning we can now be taken out by Veluza. And when we switch into Pikachu, it almost gets one-shot. Then obviously, now that we're one-shot, an Aqua Jet will finish us off. Tried to switch into Dragonite, and I set up a Dragon's Dance, as I wasn't expecting for it to use Ice Fang and finish us off. That was kind of dumb of me, to be honest. 4 times weak, I kind of knew I'd go down there. This means we're going to send Glalie in, because Glalie won't take too much damage, and we can Ice Beam, also not doing much damage. We end up managing to knock it under half by the time we go down, and now we can switch into Lucario. Lucario's Aura Sphere doesn't do quite enough, and Liquidation does a lot, dropping our defense as well, but it's fine because we had a Citrus Berry. Then decide to terastallize into Pure Fighting type, and that is going to guarantee us taking it out on this turn. Then lastly, we're going to have her Glamora. It is going to terastallize into Pure Rock, and that's going to be its downfall. We outspeed and can Aura Sphere one-shotting it. But Jesus Christ, was that a close battle. With that done, though, we might as well get on to taking on Penny. Lucario is going to be our lead, as we can use Aura Sphere, which is super effective, doing about a third damage to it. But Psychic isn't doing much to us. We only need to use 2 more moves, and we will have taken it down, and we're still above half health. Then Flareon's going to come out. I'm going to Terastallize to lose my Steel typing, hoping I can survive, and use an Aura Sphere, not doing an awful lot of damage to it. We also will go down here to the Flare Blitz regardless, which means the Terastallization was a waste. Dragonite's then going to come out though, and it ends up Baby Dollizing. But it's fine, because we can just use Dragon's Dance to raise our attack as much as we want. It can't do much to us. It can get a burn off against us. That really sucks. Well, I've got to take it down now, and that's going to bring in Vaporeon. As our attack's halved due to the burn, we don't end up taking it out with a Dragon Claw, and Aurora Beam will do more than enough to finish us off. Noivern can come out though, and an Acrobatics will end up taking the Vaporeon out. Jolteon's up next, and we use a Boom Burst as it hits us with a Thunder and paralyzes us. Jesus Christ. Luckily, we get luck on our side and avoid it so we can Boom Burst the next turn. However, it doesn't miss twice in a row, so we will get taken out here. Gengar comes out, and Thunder could have hit us. It wouldn't have mattered unless it paralyzed, but it missed anyway, allowing us to Sludge Bomb it. Leafeon comes out, and thankfully that thing doesn't outspeed us, so we can one-shot that with a Sludge Bomb. And unfortunately for Penny, her ace happens to be Sylveon, the Fairy typing, which is weak to Poison-type moves, so we'll do exactly what we've done the past 2 turns and win this battle. Actually, it managed to survive. That's incredible. It Shadow Balls and takes us down, but it's fine. It's poisoned anyway. I suppose it's only fitting in an Ash run to have Pikachu come out and finish it, though. Iron Tail is a beautiful move after all. With that, though, we do have a champion battle again, being against champion Nemona. Lycanroc is going to set up Stealth Rocks on the first turn as we Razor Leaf, not quite taking it out. It's then going to Stone Edge into us and wipe the floor with us. From here, though, we can bring in Lucario, and a Vacuum Wave means we have the priority, so we'll take it out. Then we have the troublesome Pormo, but I know what it's going to go for. It's going to go for close combat, so we can safely bring in Gengar. Gengar will then outspeed and use a Psychic, taking Pormo out, and that's going to bait in the Orthworm. I decide to stay in against the Orthworm and just use a Shadow Ball, doing very good damage to it. However, it can Earthquake, and obviously Gengar won't survive that. Lucario can then come out though, and obviously Lucario will finish the job. The Dunsparce is up next, and knowing it's going for a Drill Run, I Terastallize to lose my Steel typing and Aura Sphere into it. It's not quite enough to take it out, and the following Drill Run does crit, so I definitely made the right choice here. Luckily, we have a Citrus Berry to get ourselves a bit more healthy, and we can Aura Sphere to finish it off. This is going to bring in Goodra, though. Goodra's quite scary, as it's quite bulky. As you can see, my Aura Sphere doesn't do too much to it, and then Dragon Pulse will do a lot to us. I decide best thing to do is get some damage, get it to half health, and just go down with Lucario here, though. This will let us bring in Dragonite, but I did forget this thing knew Ice Beam, so Dragonite is no more. Yep, that's another mess up with an ice move on Dragonite. Pikachu can come out and it can use an Iron Tail. Goodra survives, Dragon Pulses us, and Pikachu goes down. But it's fine. Noivern is left in the back, and Noivern can use an Acrobatics and finish Goodra off. So we have the troublesome Meowscarada. But it doesn't really matter, as we've got Acrobatics and no item, meaning that we just need to use that, and we don't KO it. Oh my god. I forgot to remove the Citrus Berry, so we didn't do as much damage as we should have. Yeah, that sucks. Luckily, though, the Play Rough isn't enough to take us out. We survive on 13 HP. It drops our attack with the Play Rough, but our Citrus Berry gives us some health back and loses our item, meaning Acrobatics is just enough to take it out. Talk about fighting to the wire. And all that means that we're gonna have to go on to Area 0. This is where we have the final battle of the run. Will we be victorious, or will we be taken down here? We're gonna lead with Donphan, who gets hit with a Fiery Dance pretty heavily, but it's fine because we retaliate with an Earthquake, taking down the Iron Moth. Iron Bundle comes out next, and this thing is crazy fast, so we just have to let Donphan go down to a Freeze Dry. Torterra is gonna be the Pokemon of choice choice. And again, we're going to Terrasilize to lose that ground type in, meaning that the Freeze Dry doesn't do enough to take us out. And our Leaf Storm does awesome damage, finishing it off. Iron Jugulus is up next though, and I don't want to risk fighting it. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch into Pikachu. Air Slash still does pretty awesome damage to us though. And then it outspeeds, which I wasn't expecting, so a Dark Pulse will finish Pikachu off. I decided the best bet is to go for Noivern. We'll use an Acrobatics. It does a little under half, and Dark Pulse does about the same to us. The last one must have been a low roll though, as the next Acrobatics will take this bugger out. With Iron Thorns coming in, I know it's not safe, so we're going to bring in Lucario, who can tank a Stone Edge beautifully. From here, we can Aura Sphere, which isn't enough to take it out, but an Earthquake will take us out. I then decide to bring Gengar in, because Gengar can Shadow Ball and take out Iron Thorns. And it's also got a pretty decent matchup against Iron Hands, as it can use a Psychic against it. Iron Hands really can't do too much. It Thunder Punches us, which won't take us out. And our Citrus Berry activates, but that doesn't matter. But the next turn will take it down, leading to his last Pokemon. Obviously, being Iron Valiant. We do outspeed the Iron Valiant, and we manage to hit it with a Sludge Bomb for the victory. This means not only can Ash beat all of Paldea, he can beat the DLC too. Thank you for your time, and goodbye.